Welcome to the Financial Freedom Podcast, where we interview remarkable people and share strategies for mastering money and living a meaningful life. With your host, Grant Sabatier, creator of Millennial Money and author of Financial Freedom, a proven path to all the money you will ever need.
Hey everyone, and welcome to the Financial Freedom Podcast. This is Grant Sabatier, but wanted to come back on the show and drop a special episode, check in with Cody Berman, who, if you're familiar with the podcast, you know that Cody was my book tour manager all the way back in 2019. Gosh, I can't believe that was 7 years ago that we were on the road. Time really flies. But in that time, Cody Berman has gone from quitting his job to now multi-millionaire. By far, I'd say my greatest student, has taken everything I've written about in my book really to the ends and to the extreme, and learned a lot in the process. I've learned a lot from him just watching what he's done, but couldn't be more proud of what Cody has accomplished, and wanted to bring him on the show today to celebrate his new book, Retire by 30, which is out now everywhere. Want to talk about the book, want to catch up with Cody, catch you all up, and just say hello, because it's been a couple of years and I've really just been enjoying my freedom. Since that time, I've launched a bookstore, Clintonville Books in Columbus, Ohio. It's been so fun to see so many podcast listeners come through the bookstore, and it's been awesome to get to meet you. I launched a rare book brand, Columbus Rare Books, where I sell first editions and historical books and manuscripts all across the world. And I've been collecting about 20 years. It's really been one of my passions, and now I'm starting to make some money at it. Just bought my bookstore building in October, so I've been investing in commercial real estate and just picked up my second commercial real estate property. So it's one of these funny things. You never know where life is going to take you. But wanted to hop back on the show and celebrate Cody's new book and catch up with him. Dude, Cody, it's just great to see you.
Yeah, I appreciate you having me on, man. And it's been so fun recollecting kind of all the things that happened to get me here. I've been on a bunch of podcasts doing the whole podcast tour for the book launch, and I've been telling a lot of stories about us and the Financial Freedom Book Tour. And one podcast host in particular was like, "Oh, so you and Grant were good friends? Like you traveled around the country?" I was like, "Not really. We kind of just, I met him at a conference. You know, we chatted online, had a couple Zoom calls, and then we lived together in a van for 3 months for the Financial Freedom Book Tour." But talk about the butterfly effect, man. Like that completely changed my life. You broke my frame in so many different ways. Like all these self-imposed glass ceilings that I had about money, about income, about living life. I have to thank you for shattering all of those. And I was very, very honored when you said yes to write the foreword for my book. And man, I'm just excited to talk all things about financial freedom and money and yeah, anything we want to talk about today.
Yeah, the thing I love most about your book is because you've taken the core five philosophy and really accelerated it. And so when you look back at a book like Your Money, Your Life by Vicki Robin, which, you know, obviously changed my life and was hugely influential on me, you know, you get all the core tenets of FI in that book, right? But it's really focused on the frugality component, right? It's really focused on the cutting back. And I think if there's any contribution that I've made, you know, that like footnote in history, it is that income piece, right? That you can only cut back so much, but there's not a limit to how much money you can make. And what's so funny now is, you know, I don't spend much time on social media, but I'll just be scrolling on Instagram or TikTok, and I'll just literally hear people, you know, repeat that verbatim. You know, there's a limit to how much you can cut back, but not a limit to how much you can make. And all these things that I wrote about, which is so amazing to see that just like becoming a part of the ether. But what your book really does is double down on the math of financial independence. And so it cuts out really the fluff of my book, where it's all about kind of income stacking. And it's like, here's how the math works. Now press the accelerator pedal. So it's really focused on retiring in 10 years or less. Can you talk a little bit about all of the different pieces that you stacked together to reach financial independence, from the side hustles to the real estate to investing in index funds, and how that's accelerated your journey?
So I think the key thing that differentiates my book from a lot of the other content, because I think when you first discovered Fi Grant, it was like the Mr. Money Mustache mad scientist era, right? It was like you save up 25x your expenses. We've all heard about the 4% rule. And then you can basically live off that portfolio in perpetuity. So if you're living on $60,000 a year, you need $1.5 million in the stock market invested. And in theory, then you could live on that forever. But I was like, there has to be a faster way, right? Like, I don't have to save up this massive nest egg, this $1.5 million. And this is the idea of cash flow FI. So the reason I was able to hit FI so much earlier than if I did that traditional nest egg method was I did do some of that nest egg stuff. I was investing in index funds and in the market, but I was also trying to stack my passive and semi-passive cash flows. So I was investing in things like real estate, long-term rentals, short-term rentals. I was building like a digital product business. So I could work on this business like a couple hours a month, and it was bringing in $10,000+ per month. So like the amalgamation of all these things, the real estate, the digital products, and I was also investing in the stock market all at the same time. By the time I hit FI, which was right before my 26th birthday, I had like $500K invested in the stock market. I had $3,700 coming in after all expenses, my real estate, and then I was making about $10,000 per month for my digital products business. So it was kind of like there's all these different ways to do it. I just kind of threw them all together, and that's what allowed me to hit FI faster than the traditional method where you're just doing the 25 extra expenses.
Of all those investments, what's performed the best for you?
So I don't know if I would call like a digital products business an investment, but that has by far been the most profitable. It's mostly like sweat equity. I mean, really, it wasn't much capital that went into that business. And basically, I'm just like selling digital products on Etsy, Shopify. I have multiple shops now. I have a whole template library, a course, a community. It's become a whole beast in and of itself. But that was a lot of sweat equity. In terms of actual capital I invested, I would say that real estate did perform better. And that's just because of leverage. But leverage is as I think once you said, leverage is a double-edged sword. So if you're over levered and then the market crashes, you're screwed. But if the market is on a tear and you use leverage, then it can just accelerate your path to financial freedom.
So can you talk about the path that your money was moving? So let's say, you have your digital products business, you make $1. How are you deciding what to do with that dollar? Where are you allocating and why?
That's a great question. I'm pretty split between my real estate exposure and my stock market exposure today. And I've kind of been that way the whole time. My rationale was I have had a podcast since 2018, and I interviewed so many people who had hit FI incredibly quickly, and a lot of them via real estate. So when I first started, like when we first met, Grant, when we went on the book tour, I think I was 100% stocks. I mean, my net worth wasn't very high. It was like 75K or something at the time, but I was like all in on stocks. It was 2020 when I started investing in real estate and just seeing the insane timelines that people were hitting FI in. Like my friends James and Emily hit FI in like 2 years from real estate in Huntsville, Alabama. I'm like, okay, if these guys are doing that, like, let me give it a shot and see what I can do with real estate. So it's been pretty split, like dollar for dollar. Like $1 might go to stocks, $1 might go to real estate from my like active income, my digital products business. And it's kind of stuck that way. Now I've become less and less personally involved with my real estate. Like I started out just like buying a duplex, buying a triplex, buying an Airbnb. And now a lot of my money, because I'm making more money, is going into just like syndications. Like I'll just throw a chunk of money at a 100-unit apartment complex in Iowa or, student housing in Arizona. And so I'm still investing in real estate, just a little less hands-on nowadays versus when I was investing back in 2020.
So why do the syndicate route? Just because it's more passive? Do you have someone you really trust to hold your money? And how long are you locking up that capital?
Okay, I'll answer in reverse order just because it's top of mind. Locking up the capital for anywhere from 3 to 7 years. All the people I've invested with are very vetted, and it's like a recommendation from a friend. So I have a lot of friends who have a lot of money in real estate. Hey, what syndicators do you work with? I'll have a conversation with that syndicator or with one of their associates, and I feel pretty comfortable about investing capital. Knock on wood, I haven't been burned yet. All the syndications I've invested in have done pretty well. But to answer your first question, the reason why syndications, not just like buy more duplexes and triplexes and other commercial properties around here, is like my time is better spent on my digital products business. Like my return on time, just my return on like my effort, my return on energy is so much higher in that business. So if I can just throw a $50,000 chunk into a syndication versus do the due diligence, find the property, get it tenanted, do all the things that go into getting like a profitable rental property, I'm just going to chuck it in the syndication. Like I still have the tax benefits. You still get a lot of the same benefits, although not all of them if you're not like a general partner. But the syndication does give me that real estate exposure and some of those tax benefits. So that's why I've been leaning that route.
have there been any downsides to your journey? I know you've invested in some real estate, maybe sold some of the properties. Can you talk about any of the mistakes that you've made?
I don't know if I'd say downsides. I'm the type of person where I try to look at everything that goes wrong as a failure. I'm like, this is either going to be an awesome story later on, or it's going to be something that I'm never going to repeat again. I mean, with real estate, we've had one of our tenants got arrested on our property after she was drunk driving home and hitting other people's cars. We've had tenants who jammed potatoes down the drain, which caused the sewer backup and the whole basement flooded with crap. We have had, yeah, a whole bunch of kind of crazy stuff happen, but it's all learning experience. And so now we look at properties more carefully. And now we have this rule where for the properties we personally invest in and own, like non-syndications, we will not buy a property unless we would be okay with living in that property, which is just that like golden rule. It seems so simple and silly, but that golden rule has really paid dividends because we at first we're just like investing in anything that looked good on paper. We're like, oh my gosh, look at the return on capital here. Like, look at the cash on cash return. It's astronomical. It's like, oh, it's because it's in a horrible neighborhood. And even though we've done all the screening, we checked all the boxes, we thought we were doing everything right, we still ended up with some nightmare tenants and some horror stories. But I mean, everything's a learning lesson, right? It's like the things that I've tried and didn't enjoy or that went wrong for whatever reason, it's just another stripe on my belt. And, you know, I either sold that property or stopped doing that thing. I used to be like, I've been talking about side hustles a lot this week. I used to be like the side hustle guy, and I had like 20 different income streams, I think, when we met, Grant. And since then, I've pared way, way down. But I wouldn't consider all the 30 plus side hustles that are in the graveyard failures. It's like those were learning lessons. You know, the disc golf company that I started back in 2016, I ended up selling my share in that. We don't operate that business anymore, but it's like I learned so much about marketing, SEO, networking, email copy, like just everything about business. But I wouldn't call it a failure per se. It's just like that was the stepping stone that I needed to level up and get to the next rung in business. So yeah, to answer your question, on a long-winded answer here, but I'll really try to look at every failure or everything that has gone wrong, whether it's real estate or business, as just a stepping stone to the next level.
Yeah, I think one of the things we've talked about before, a lot of people are just so afraid to get started in any of this, right? There's just that analysis paralysis where it's like, oh, I'm going to miss something. I don't know how to invest in real estate. How do I do that? How do I start something new? But there's a point in your life when you really don't have anything to lose. And, when you were starting out, no kids, no real responsibilities, you had nothing to lose and everything to gain. And so you're testing all of these different avenues. But for the average person, who hasn't done all of these things, is there a good place to start that you would recommend today?
I am a firm believer that people should follow the path of least resistance. I really hate when gurus online will be like, this certain type of real estate is the only way, or this side hustle is the only way. Like a lot of people will think that because digital products and real estate have been my path, that I tell everyone that they have to do the same thing. But it's like, hey, if you have a sales job with super high commissions, like side hustling might not even be the right answer for you. You just might be able to hammer the income button on that job and hit 5 really fast because you can make a ton of money in that job with your variable sales comp. So to answer your question, I mean, I am a fan of people doing things outside of their comfort zone, but I don't want to stand here and be like, you have to do this certain side hustle or you have to try this certain type of investing. But I do urge people to please get comfortable being uncomfortable, because the more you lean into that uncomfortability, the more you will grow. Like the more you fail, the more you fall flat in your face, the more you reach out and get no's or no responses, you're just going to have a thicker shell and you're going to be better suited for the next opportunity that comes your way.
So is it too late to start this? Because, everyone out there is worried about AI, right? Worried and or excited or some mixture of the two, right? And, we're seeing now just more and more layoffs. Anyone working on a computer as their primary mode is certainly having some form of an existential crisis, right? Is AI, are our second brains just going to replace us? And literally, I'm not doing this just because I'm running my bookstore and I'm living a more analog life, but literally every single entrepreneur and business person that I know that has had some level of success, they're moonlighting right now, building out just massive armies of AI agents to automate all areas of their business, all areas of their life. I talked to Chris Hutchins the other day, from All the Hacks podcasts. man, what he's doing it's insane, literally insane. And, you know, I do worry for people who are primarily knowledge workers. Can people do what you're talking about? Is it too late to invest in real estate as things have gotten more expensive? Is it too late to be a digital entrepreneur? Is it too late is the stock market at an all-time high and going to tank? You know, we've obviously benefited from a really incredible run on the stock market. You know, I started really investing in 2010, right? So 16 years of just pretty solid compounding and performance. But then again, 7 years ago when the book came out, everyone's like, this isn't repeatable. No one can do this, right? And the markets just continue to grow and more opportunities continue to open. Can you give me your perspective on today? Is it still possible for someone to retire by 30?
Absolutely. I think people have been saying this since the beginning of time, since the beginning of financial freedom, when Henry David Thoreau was talking about it back back in his time. Like back when you discovered your money in your life, I'm sure people were telling Vicky and Joe, like, oh, this isn't possible anymore. You know, we're gonna have this huge war with the Soviets. You know, you definitely don't have your money in the market. And then it's like the .com crash, like then it's the 2008 financial crisis. There's always something looming. And the market, yes, it might crash one year. But if you look at a chart zoomed out over 100 years, it is just continuing to go up and to the right. Now, to address your AI concern, I think right now there is the biggest gap between the doers and the not doers. Like if you're someone who's motivated and you are willing to moonlight and like learn these things with AI, you can become a super person. Like I think we're going to see multiple one person companies that are like doing $1 billion a year in the next decade or so, just because people are able to build out all these agents and people are able to just operate at a scale that wasn't even fathomable 5 or 10 years ago. So like if you're if you're the type of person who's listening to this podcast, you're already in the top 5, maybe top 1%. Like if you're someone who's willing to adopt these new things and figure out new strategies and new ways to make income, like the gap is only going to widen between those who adopt the new tools and what's going on and those who don't. So I'm actually on the other side of what you're talking about, Grant. Like yes, there are going to be layoffs. Yes, the landscape is going to change. But like for those who adopt and those who, let's say you have a copywriting job, but instead of being like, oh man, you know, AI is going to take my job, I'm screwed. Maybe you just become the manager of a bunch of copywriters and you become like the master of Claude prompting. And all of a sudden you become 10 times more productive. And you're like, hey, XYZ company, I've actually been, you know, I'm a master manager of these bots, of these agents who can copyright like 1 billion times better than I ever could and so much more prolific. So like if you can lean into the market, lean into what's going on right now, get those skill sets. I know you've said this. I love this quote. Skills are future currency. And those skills are what's going to future proof you and what's going to kind of make you invaluable in just the tethers of society. Like you are going to find a way to make money if you have skills that other people are willing to pay for. So I seriously think that with AI and with the level of output that people can achieve nowadays, like the people who are doers, the people who are learners, the people who are willing to find those new skills are actually going to be able to hit FI faster than you or I ever could.
Yeah, I think it's interesting because you can never anticipate how your life's going to change and how FI is going to change your life. And I think for me now, you know, I'm 41, have a kid, have way more money than I ever thought I would have, still get money from my website, you know, holding company, the bookstore, royalties from my book, index funds, my rental properties. You know, I'm just naturally diversified. That I look out at the AI world, and for the first time in my life, I'm consciously choosing to not participate in something. You know, it's one of these things like, I don't think it's past my time, but it's like that's not where I want to spend my time. And really, for the first time ever, I've been choosing to say no to, you know, an opportunity which is clearly maybe the greatest opportunity in our generation. You know, to your point, um, I do think the wealth gap is going to accelerate. I think you're right. I think this is a real golden age for people who are going to be creative and want to test and try things. But you know, for those who aren't, it's going to be, you know, very very difficult. Which makes the core tenets of FI, right? It's like have, you know, a nest egg saved up and control your expenses. You know, all those things are now, you know, more important than ever. Is there any opportunity in your own life? You mentioned now you're syndicating instead of buying individual doors. Are there other areas and opportunities in your life where you're starting to say no simply because you have more money than you thought you would have? Or can you talk about some of the ways and some of the limits that you've created in your life?
This is a great question. Yeah, I mean, I have really tried to just simplify my investing strategy. I know I was mentioning before, like I was buying short-term rentals, buying long-term rentals. I was doing flips. I was doing hard money lending. And now I've just kind of like said no to a lot of that stuff that eats up more of my time. And like I was mentioning to you, I'm just like, okay, let me just throw 50K in a syndication. There's my real estate exposure and I don't need to worry about it. Or with on the stock front. Like, I mean, I used to back in the day do like a lot of individual stock picking. This was before I met you in financial freedom, but now it's just like straight index funds. I'm like, I'm just going to ride the market. 9 out of 10 professionals can't beat the market. So like, why am I going to even bother? In terms of opportunities on the entrepreneurship side, I've definitely heard Alex Hermosi talk about this a lot. Like as you start to level up in business, just the opportunities become so much more attractive. It's like first you're saying no to like a 10 grand opportunity, and then you're saying no to a 100 grand opportunity. Then you're saying no to like a 7-figure opportunity. And I'm sure the game never ends as your income continues to go up and up. Like I'm sure Jeff Bezos has to say no to billion-dollar opportunities on the daily, on the weekly. So it's definitely become more difficult, but I've really tried to just like hone in on the couple of things that are making me money that I enjoy doing and cutting everything else out. So I've had people approach me with a lot of cool business ideas or, hey, can you invest in X, Y, and Z? And I just have to say, hey, actually, I'm really focusing on these things right now. I don't have time to indulge you in whatever the request might be. So yeah, it's really been just a simplification. Instead of having 20 plus side hustles and investing in 30 different things, it's like I'm investing in a couple of things and I have like 3 or 4 main income streams and everything else is just noise.
So can you talk a little bit about how you're spending your money? Are you what are you doing? What are you doing for yourself now that you're 5x fi or whatever?
So my spending has gone way, way up since I was in my FI journey. I know I outlined in the book. I went back through my tax returns and went back through all my old spreadsheets. During my FI journey, I was spending like $2,000 a month. It was about $24,000 a year. And I know you know my story, but like just for the listeners who haven't heard it before, basically my first year in entrepreneurship made $96,000. That was 2019. 2020 made 198,000. 2021 made 403,000. But my income stayed that same 24,000 all 3 years. So like that third year is like a $370,000 gap that I was investing into real estate, the stock market. Today, since I've hit FI though, since I'm cash flow FI and FI in the traditional nest egg sense, we definitely have turned up the spending dials a lot, but specifically on the things we value. So I'm actually still living in a house hack. Like me and my wife, Lauren, we live in a 1-bed, 1-bath. We're building our forever home, but as of right now, we're living in this house hack. We live in a 1-bed, 1-bath. About 50 feet away from us is a 4-bed, 2-bath apartment and 600 square feet of office space. We still rent that out. And so we don't pay any money to live. We actually make about $800 per month from our living situation. I'm still driving the same paid off truck that I've been driving for the past 10 years. Where we have really turned the spending dial up is on travel, experiences, time with family and friends. So we were actually just a couple months ago looking back through our like 2025 expenses. And if you look on like Personal Capital or Empower, it will show you, if you have all your stuff linked, like what your highest expenditures were. And it was like the huge chunks of the pie chart was travel and going out to eat and experiences. And I'm like, this is perfect. Like this aligns exactly with what we kind of envisioned in our FI life. So, I mean, yeah, last year we probably spent like 30, I mean, I have the exact number somewhere. I won't pull it up right now, but 30 something % of our money on travel that we spent for the year. And then spent like another 20% or something of our spending on food and experiences. And yeah, that's exactly how we want it. Like 50% of our money is going toward these travel and experiences and the categories that we really value. Not the, I don't have a Lambo. I'm not living in like a mansion. Those things just aren't as important to us at this stage. And so we're spending where we value.
So what kind of Airbnbs are you staying in, or what is the, like, are you splurging on the really nice house, and what does that look like?
So the house we're building, the forever home, we are spending quite a bit of money. Like this is going to be more extravagant than anything we've ever lived in before. In terms of Airbnbs while we travel, a lot of times we won't go for the cream of the crop. Like we're not going and spending 20 grand on a 4-day trip down in the Caribbean. But like, we're going actually in August. I'm taking my mom and brother to Sweden. She's 50% Swedish and she's never been there before. And, we're there for 1 week. And I was like, you know what? Let's get a nice place. So like before, back in the living in a van days when we were on the Financial Freedom book tour, I would probably have opted for like the cheapest Airbnb possible. Like we'd all be sharing one room with like a couple bunk beds and it would be like $100 per night. But this one, I'm like, you know what? I'll spend, it's a $6,000 expense for the week to stay in this super nice Airbnb in downtown Stockholm. Like she's going to be pumped. Family's going to be pumped. And so like things like that are just so worth it to me. I think I remember you talking about like the year after you hit FI or a couple years after you hit FI, how good it felt to like treat your friends and family. I know you flew a bunch of people out for your wedding. And like, I like spending money on that type of stuff. Like I like being able to give other people amazing experiences and just things that you're going to cherish and think about forever. I'm like, when else am I going to go back, for a 60th birthday present for my mom to Sweden? Like probably never. I don't know. So it's like, I'd rather spend the money, have the best experience possible. And we're going to be talking about this for decades. So like a lot of my money, a lot of my spending is tied to those types of things where it's something where I'm going to be talking about it for a long, long time.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, we still spend a lot of money on travel. I rented a villa in the south of France earlier this spring and took our entire families, both sides of the family there. And then, on the flip side, still wear the same black t-shirts I've been wearing for like 7 years. And,
spend on what you value.
Yeah, get complaints. It's I think the difference has really become more and more extreme over time. Although I did, I can't say I finally sold it, but the Lexus that I bought when I became a millionaire, the 2007 Lexus 400 RXH that I bought for $31,000 shortly after becoming a millionaire, I still has 98,000 original miles. I still drive it, but I have to make the confession that I did buy a new Volvo last week. Now having a kid, I felt like upgrading to a 20, there's last 20 years, car security has gotten a lot better. And so, made that splurge.
Fair enough.
now, in our garage, we have 2 matching Volvos, my wife and I, which feels like the ultimate sort of suburban dream, in a lot of ways. But yeah, it's just funny to see how things net out. I never thought I'd be living in Columbus, Ohio, with a bookstore and 2 Volvos in the garage. It's like when I was driving an $800 Nissan Maxima and living in a $800 a month apartment, right? But as you have this freedom, being able to spend the money on things just really makes a big difference. And gosh, how FI has changed my life, just so remarkably. And we're so lucky that we get to sit here and really talk about this. And I still have friends who now are in their early 40s and just starting to save and ask me those money questions. And thank God I have the book, because I could just be like, hey,
best feeling ever.
Yeah, just read this thing. Oh yeah, it's a great question. Yes, I do have thoughts on that. Read this book. So can you tell us, why did you feel so compelled to, with so many FI books, to write your story and share your book with the world?
So I had a note from September 2021 in my phone with the title "Retire by 30" at the top and a very rough outline. And things just kept getting pushed to the wayside. And we can talk about this a little bit more, but like, I feel like for so long, I was going after the highest income opportunity. So I would spend my money there. I would spend my time there as well. But in the past like year or so, I'm like, I started to just like feel more freedom from my FI. And actually, I was like, okay, I have like so much financial security. I can actually work on things, even if it's not as high of an ROI as some of these other things that I have going on in my life. And I was approaching 30, and I was like, the lamest thing ever would be to publish a book called Retire by 30 when I'm like 32. So I'm like, okay, the clock is ticking. I need to get this thing out. And to your point before, I just think it is a slightly different take on some of the other FI books out there. Like there's a lot on kind of the traditional nest egg, save up 25x your expenses. But I really wanted to show people that there is a faster way. There is an accelerated path. And I really wanted to do that too through like case studies. I know you mentioned like talking about my own story, but I'm like, there's other people who are different genders, different ages, different races, different backgrounds. So I made a very intentional choice to include a bunch of different case studies, you being one of them, of people who also hit financial freedom before 30 in a whole variety of ways. So like, I just basically what I wanted to do was to give people a whole menu of options. And it's like, here's a buffet of options. It's a la carte. pick whatever you want. Like you can side hustle, you can not side hustle. You know, you can choose to like lean hard into networking, you can not. You can optimize housing, you can not optimize housing. Like there's so many different ways to get to FI. So just kind of knowing what's out there and what's available. Like I wish I had this when I was 21, 22 years old and I started making money, just to know what options there were out there. And then I could pick and choose, like, actually, you know, real estate sounds cool, or it doesn't. Or like, you know, this digital products thing sounds pretty cool, or it doesn't. But at least just being aware gives you the freedom to make the choice.
So you've had the Financial Independence Show, your podcast, for, gosh, how many years?
Since 2018.
Jeez. So
Remember,
like,
I was editing it in the van, like at 3 a.m.
I remember that. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So, you know, 8 years you've been doing your podcast. You've interviewed so many people. What, like just hundreds and hundreds? How many?
Yeah,
people have you interviewed?
over 300. We have like over 350 episodes. Not all of them I've guessed, so probably around 300. Crazy.
Yeah. So the commitment is just insane. Can you talk about some of the takeaways you've had and how that's influenced your journey?
Yeah, I think it's just that there's not a one size fits all approach. I think everyone wants this magic bullet and they just want like a do this, but it's like there's so many different ways to do it. There's so many ways to make money. There's so many ways to cut expenses. There's so many ways to invest. And just seeing all the different ways that people have done it has inspired me to like try so many different things. That's why I've been such a dabbler with my side hustles and with my real estate and with kind of everything in my life. Like I'll hear something cool that a guest mentions on a podcast and I'm like, oh, I'll try that. Like one guest was like really big into like options trading, gave it a whirl. One guest was really big into Airbnbs, gave it a whirl. One guest talked about like hard money lending. I tried it out. So it's just like anything that I can take from other people. Like I like to stand on the shoulders of giants. So if I can learn a lesson without actually having to fail and learn that lesson the hard way, if someone can just tell me exactly how to do it, or they had a certain amount of success with X, Y, or Z thing, I'm like, hey, you know, I'll give it a try. So yeah, it's been so cool just like hearing so many different journeys. And I think for me, like when FI really became real was when I met like in real life people. And I know a podcast isn't like in real life. I'm not able to like physically be with them, but just hearing people's real stories, like, you know, you can read all the podcasts or read all the podcasts. You can read all the books. You can watch all the YouTube videos in the world, but there's something about a one-on-one conversation with someone that just like completely changes the game for you. I remember for me, that was like in early 2018 at Camp FI, and I was in Florida and I was 21 years old and I was like kind of just getting into the FI space again, listening to all the podcasts. I was reading all the books. I was doing all the stuff, but it like didn't quite click until I like talked to a real human being. And that's when I was just like a fire lit under me. And I'm like, okay, I can do this. Like I can do this even faster. And this is even more real than I thought it was. So the podcast kind of gave me a sense of that, where like I was talking to real people who had done it. And just, I feel like when you talk to someone who's done it, it just, the likelihood that you're able to achieve that thing just becomes so much greater when you see other people achieving that thing. It's like the 4-minute mile. It's like one guy, Roger Bannister, runs a 4-minute mile and like no one had ever run that before. And then the next year, like 8 people run it just because he had done it, just because they saw someone else do it. So yeah, long-winded answer to your question, but seeing other people do it and talking to those people just made it so much more real for me.
Yeah, I feel so grateful to just have been alive at the moment in history when I was alive. You know, it's very cool because I remember discovering the mad scientist. You know, Brandon was the guy that's like, he's a couple years older than me, was a couple years further on the FI journey. And I remember just being out there kind of after reading Your Money or Your Life doing this. And then I found his website and I was like, I just devoured everything. I reached out to him with like a bunch of questions. He wrote me back. I was like, yes, this, you know, it became the accelerant, you know, to the journey.
What I didn't like about the old FI movement was the focus on hyperfrugality and almost to deprivation. Like a lot of people will hear FIRE and they'll like almost be turned off because what they think of is like, you know, you're eating rice and beans and you're selling all your cars and you're biking to work, even if it's 20 miles away, and just like you're living in a storage unit. And unfortunately, FIRE kind of got this bad rep for a while. And I think books like yours really helped it out. But like back in the early days, like Early Retirement Extreme and popular FIRE influencers like that, like FIRE just got a little bit of a bad rep and people thought it was like this hyper frugality and you're just like living this absolutely deprived life. And I really want to reject that. That's why I keep putting out content and like telling people like you can still live a good life on your financial freedom path. Like you don't have to never have fun with your friends. You don't have to live in a storage unit and bike everywhere. Like, you just have to make slightly different choices than the other people around you. And that's going to make all the difference. Like, I shared some of the stuff I did, but looking at it from an outside perspective, just to give you like a bird's eye view, like, yes, Lauren and I are living in this 1-bed, 1-bath apartment, and we're house hacking. We're renting out everything next door. From the outside, like, it could look like we're just renting a 1-bed, 1-bath apartment. But compare that to someone who's actually renting a 1-bed, 1-bath, spending $2,000 a month. Like, our delta is, we're taking in 800. They're spending $2,000, $2,800 a month. And I'm driving a decent car. It's a 2015 Nissan Frontier, but it's completely paid off. Other people are spending, the average new car payment just eclipsed $750 a month. So, like, it's not like I'm driving this car that, like, the muffler is dragging on the ground. It's covered in rust. Like, it looks fine. It gets me from point A to point B. But, like, that small intentional choice is another, $750. Same with early in our journey. Now we spend a lot on food, but early in our journey, like, we'd still go out with friends. We'd just get an app and an entree and split it. Going out to the bars, we'd like pregame, so we didn't buy as many drinks out. So other people might spend $100 out. We would spend like 25 or 30. So, like, all of these things kind of just added together, and it was buying us back like $5,000 extra a month from a seemingly similar life. Like, again, it wasn't like we were doing these crazy things that looked insane from the outside. Like, if you were a person who didn't have a peek behind the curtain into our finances, you might think we're just like Joe and Jane next door. But it was like these very tiny tweaks that was making all the difference. So that's kind of what I want the people to think about the current 5 movement. Like, it's not about deprivation. Like, it's just about making these tiny intentional choices to live slightly differently than your neighbor. And over time, those tiny choices compound into millions of dollars and financial freedom.
Is it still popular, or has it just become such a part of mainstream personal finance advice? Because I've noticed as more and more people, gosh, when I started talking about money, like, no one was talking about it. And now it seems like everyone's talking about it. Everyone's vulnerable. It's open. People of your generation and younger, like, sharing all their salaries. They're just, it seems like FI has become mainstream. Is that your observation, or?
In a sense, but unfortunately, what a lot of people who are creating content in the FI space are battling is the people who are like selling life insurance. Like, now that we have TikTok and Instagram and all these like virality platforms, there's like all this shit advice that gets mega circulated. It's like people literally scamming credit card companies and like trying to get like index universal life insurance, and it's like
I see
meme coins and it stonks. And it's like all this craziness that like people, level-headed financial people talking about financial independence, are trying to combat. So unfortunately, yes, money is getting talked about more, but a lot of the quote unquote popular content is just absolute crap that just gets mega circulated because it's just like some crazy headline.
So I want to fast forward now. Let's say, where are you at in 10 years, right? Because we're about 10 years difference in age, a little bit more. But how about you talk a little bit about where you want to be in 10 years, and then I'll share some of my perspectives, post FI.
I think something that you've taught me is I have no idea what my life is going to look like in 10 years, and I love it. I don't want to know what my life is going to look like in 10 years. Now, I can tell you on like a personal note, like, I think I'm still going to be working out, staying healthy, having a great relationship with my wife, like still traveling and doing fun stuff. But from a business perspective, I have no idea. I can imagine I'm still going to be invested in a lot of the same things, but like what I'm doing in my day-to-day life from a money-making perspective in 10 years, like maybe I'll have a whole new business venture. I have no idea, probably. But it's fun. It's fun not knowing. And so I'm just kind of rolling with the punches. And I don't want to know exactly what my life is going to be like in 10 years. That's why I left corporate, because I saw what my boss's life was like. And I'm like, that life sucks. I don't want that life in 10 years. I'm going to quit and I'm going to forge my own path.
Yeah, no, I love that. Yeah, I remember sort of the theme of the book tour was not knowing is a really beautiful thing, right? I was at that point in my life where I'd been FI for a number of years, and I was in a really reflective mode, and I was trying to get the point across that, like, that's part of the most beautiful thing in life is when you don't know, because status quo ultimately becomes the enemy of financial independence, right? When you keep doing that same thing. And I think it's always been really hard for me to just keep doing the same thing when I'm bored or I'm no longer interested. And so my life works in these like 5-year increments. And even starting the bookstore, it was like, gosh, I've always wanted a bookstore. I'm just going to do it. Right. And I have the financial means to do something that from the outside, everyone's like, books, that's a terrible business and that's low margin. And why would you do that? And I've never worked in a bookstore, never done retail, none of it. But bringing all of this entrepreneurial experience with an open mind, I figured it out, right? And now I have, probably the most popular like used collectible bookstore in my city, definitely. And I've been able to do that in a year. It's been a lot of work. It's been a big challenge, but I never would have thought that I'd be doing what I'm doing. And I just told you, I just bought my second commercial real estate property, and I'd heard for years those like commercial real estate bros being like,
Yeah.
and I just never really paid attention. And then when I had a couple opportunities, fall into my lap, it was like, geez, like you can get your tenant to pay the taxes and the insurance, and you don't have to do anything except, maintain the roof and the parking lot. That was so attractive to me that I couldn't not invest in it. Right. So here I am from when we went on the book tour, living in Ohio, investing in commercial real estate. I have a rare book business, a bookstore, all these things that I'm following things that I love. And I'm able to do that because I am FI, right? It's helped me be able to take a lot more risks that maximize my joy, that expand my life in a way that wouldn't have been possible. It would have been so easy to just keep doing, what I was doing. So that's cool. It is a little bit difficult now to see people that I've passed. Like my LinkedIn is like this graveyard of people still doing the same thing that they've been doing, for the past, 10, 20 years. And it's both so boring, but so entertaining just to see like how little changes, it's like, but I think really, really the magic of life rests in paying attention to how things make you feel and moving towards those things that make you feel good and help you expand and help you grow. Because that's, it makes for certainly a much more interesting and fun life than just kind of sticking with what you already know. But yeah, I commend you on committing to the book and writing the book and sharing the evolution of this path, because it is an evolution. It is an accelerant. It is the no fluff approach, I would say, almost like the phi equation, would be another title for it. So congrats on that, man. And I really loved it. And I was like, geez, this would have been really nice to have. Yeah. When I was in my 20s, starting this system. So yeah, it's just great to see, man.
Well, I appreciate it, and I learned from the best.
Yeah.
So again, I'm standing on the shoulders of giants.
Yeah.
I owe a lot of my success to you, and
Appreciate that, man.
Even marketing the book, like so many things are coming back from the book tour, and just all the things that I remember you doing, like on the marketing front, and then all the events and the people we connected with. So it's been a really, really cool full circle moment to kind of reconnect with that book tour that we did 7 years ago. It's literally so crazy to think that was 7 years ago.
I still have the van.
Yeah.
It's parked in a garage, not running just because I haven't kept it up. But it's like it's wild. Maybe I'll take a video and send it to you, because it's a time capsule. It's pretty much been sitting exactly like when we pulled off the book tour. Yeah, I mean, I drove it, from New York to Ohio, but it's like all the same stickers, all the same books, like everything that was in there. It's still, I looked at it, a couple months ago, and it's just, yeah, it's a time capsule. I'd love to I'm buying all these properties now. Maybe I'll install it in one of them. You know what I mean?
That'd be cool.
Almost like a museum piece or something. But yeah, man, it was right before the pandemic too. Gosh,
yeah, we got lucky.
We got so lucky. So lucky. Yeah, it was so fun, so exhausting, but so fun. Yeah, world's changed a lot, and time just goes so fast, dude. Just so fast. So just, yeah, enjoy every moment. Enjoy your time. If you feel stuck in your life, quit and do something else. It's going to be the best decision, you can make. And it's nice that there's another way to live, right? There's like another path, which is like the most encouraging and most exciting thing. And it works. You know, you and I are both testaments to this working, and, you know, we did it 10 years plus apart. You certainly faster than me. And it's not a myth, right? It's like, hopefully people see this and they're inspired that they can do it in their own way. And it works, right? And once you know that something works, it's really up to you to decide what you do with it. And unfortunately, most people, you know, that's how I ended my first book. It was like, all right, now that you know this, like, what are you going to do with it? And what you decide to do with it is, you know, up to you. It's your life. It's not mine, right? So it's just like people taking responsibility for these tactics. But yeah, what a time to live, man. And thank you for your contribution now to the Phi Canon. It's pleasure reconnecting with you. I know we don't chat that much, and I'm really happy that you're happy. That's really the most important thing to me, man. So we'll catch up later down the road. Everyone, Cody, Retire by 30, Cody Berman. Check out the book everywhere books are sold, and share it with your friends. That's what makes books a success. Share it with someone you love. And dude, thanks for coming on the show.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I'm actually doing some fun giveaway stuff on retiredby30book.com. Took that out of your playbook. You had financialfreedombook.com. I got retiredby30book.com.
Love it.
Go and check it out. And seriously, man, appreciate the catch up. And yeah, it's been far too long, but it's so cool to see what you've built. And now that you're just like completely living your Phi life. You are a true testament to financial freedom and that this thing works.
Thanks for listening to this episode. If you enjoyed it, please leave a review, and I would love your help getting the word out.